Whataboutism, the lazy argument that won't die. Ever had a debate where, instead of addressing your point, someone throws out a completely unrelated counterexample? That, my friends, is whataboutism, a classic deflection tactic designed to dodge accountability and derail discussions. It's like trying to have a conversation with a caffeinated squirrel who just discovered shiny objects. You might start with a coherent point, but 5 minutes later, you're arguing about the aerodynamic properties of acorns while the original topic bursts into flames in the background. But fear not, dear viewers, because today, we're going to dissect this rhetorical abomination and give you the tools to shut it down. What whataboutism is and how to spot it. Alright, let's dissect this rhetorical cockroach. Whataboutism at its core is the art of deflection disguised as an argument. It's a way of saying, sure, what I'm doing might be bad, but what about them? Without ever actually addressing the initial point. It's the conversational equivalent of throwing a smoke bomb and hoping no one notices you sprinting away from the real issue. Imagine this. You're trying to have a calm, rational conversation about the dangers of smoking. You lay out the facts, the increased risk of cancer, heart disease, the fact that your breath could strip paint off a barn door. And just when you think you're making headway, your conversational partner drops a rhetorical bombshell. Well, what about all the people who eat fast food? That's unhealthy too, isn't it? And just like that, you've been whatabouted. Instead of engaging with the very real and present dangers of smoking, you're suddenly debating the nutritional value of a Big Mac. Is fast food healthy? Debatable? Is it relevant to the discussion about smoking? Not even slightly. But here's the thing about whataboutism. It often works, at least in the short term. It's a distraction technique, a way of muddying the waters and derailing the conversation. It preys on our desire for consistency, making us feel like we can't criticize one thing without criticizing everything. Suddenly, you're defending kale smoothies while your original point about lung cancer withers on the vine. So how do you spot this conversational chameleon in the wild? Look out for these telltale signs. 1. The art of the non sequitur. Whataboutism thrives on irrelevance. 2. The hypocrisy hustle. Whataboutism is a favorite tool of the hypocrite. 3. The derailment derby. The primary goal of whataboutism is to shift the focus away from the original argument. Recognizing whataboutism for what it is, a lazy argument and a cheap tactic to avoid accountability, is the first step to dismantling its power. By calling it out, you can steer the conversation back to the original point and hold people accountable for their actions. Alright, let's get one thing straight. Whataboutism isn't just annoying, it's about as logically sound as a chocolate teapot. It's a fallacy, a rhetorical sleight of hand designed to distract you from the fact that there's no actual argument there. Think of it like this. You're in a courtroom and the prosecution presents irrefutable evidence that the defendant robbed a bank. Security footage? Check. Eyewitness testimony? Check. A vault full of marked bills found in their basement? Check, check, check. But instead of addressing these damning accusations, the defense attorney stands up and says, "But Your Honor, what about all the other bank robberies happening right now?" That, my friends, is a textbook example of the tu quoque fallacy, a close cousin of whataboutism. It's Latin for you too, and it's the art of deflecting blame by pointing out that others have done the same or similar things. The problem is, even if everyone else is robbing banks, it doesn't magically absolve the defendant of their crime. Two wrongs, as they say, don't make a right. Whataboutism fails as a valid argument because it relies on false equivalencies and irrelevant comparisons. Here's the crucial point. Acknowledging a problem, even criticizing it, doesn't mean you're condoning every other problem in the universe. It's called nuance, folks, and it's what separates us from sea sponges and particularly dense fruitcakes. So, the next time someone tries to hit you with the whataboutism card, remember this. They're not making a real argument, they're just trying to change the subject. We deserve arguments that are grounded in logic, evidence, and maybe even the occasional sprinkle of intellectual honesty. Politics and media, two arenas where whataboutism isn't just a tactic, it's practically the house wine. It's served up so frequently that it's become a staple, a go-to move for those looking to dodge accountability. It's the rhetorical equivalent of a well-worn punching bag, predictable, overused, and yet, somehow, still capable of inflicting damage. Despite its overuse, it remains a potent tool in the arsenal of political discourse. Politicians, bless their evasive little hearts, are masters of this dark art. They wield it with the finesse of seasoned performers, turning every accusation into an opportunity to deflect and distract. They're like rhetorical escape artists, wriggling out of accountability faster than you can say gerrymandering. It's almost magical how they can shift the focus with a few well-chosen words. A politician accused of corruption might deflect by pointing to a scandal in the opposing party, completely ignoring the fact that, 2 scandals are still twice as many scandals as 0 scandals. This tactic muddies the waters, making it harder for the public to focus on the original issue. It's like a magician who distracts you with a flashy dove while they're busy making your wallet disappear. The sleight of hand is so smooth you almost forget what you were originally concerned about. And let's not forget our friends in the media, who often seem more interested in generating outrage clicks than fostering meaningful discourse. The media plays a crucial role in amplifying whataboutism, often without even realizing it. Headlines practically write themselves. Politician A accuses politician B of wrongdoing, but what about that time politician A jaywalked in 2008? The cycle of deflection continues, feeding the 24-hour news machine. Suddenly, we're debating the ethics of crossing the street while actual substantive issues are left to rot on the sidewalk. Important conversations are sidelined in favor of trivial distractions. But here's the thing. Whataboutism thrives in these environments because it's effective. It derails conversations, shifts blame, and keeps the public from holding anyone truly accountable. It sows discord, creates false equivalencies, and makes it incredibly difficult to have a nuanced conversation about complex issues. The more divided we are, the easier it is for those in power to maintain the status quo. It's a way of exploiting our very human tendency to simplify, to categorize, to reduce everything to a binary of us versus them. This binary thinking is a fertile ground for whataboutism to flourish. Bad faith actors, trolls, and online provocateurs use whataboutism to derail discussions, silence dissent, and generally make the internet a less pleasant place. They thrive on chaos and confusion, making it hard to discern truth from distraction. The goal is rarely to engage in good faith debate. Instead, it's to muddy the waters, to create enough noise that the signal gets lost. We can recognize whataboutism for what it is: a cheap tactic, a distraction, a way of avoiding the real issues. By calling it out, we can start to clear the path for more meaningful and productive conversations. So, you're armed with the knowledge you can spot a whataboutism from 30 paces, but how do you actually combat it in the wild? It's one thing to recognize it, but another to effectively counter it. Fear not, my friends, because we're about to delve into the art of whataboutism self-defense. It's a skill that, once mastered, can save you countless headaches. Step 1. Identify the beast. Recognizing a whataboutism is the first crucial step. Call it out by name. Don't let it slip by unnoticed. Don't be afraid to say, "Hold on, that's a classic whataboutism, and it's not relevant to the point I'm making." This helps in setting boundaries. Sometimes, simply shining a light on a fallacy is enough to make it scurry back under its rock. Exposing it can be very effective. Step 2. Refocus the conversation. This is where your conversational skills come into play. Gently but firmly, steer the discussion back to the original topic. It's important to stay on track. Think of it like conversational herding cats. It takes patience, persistence, and maybe a laser pointer, but it can be done. It's a skill worth developing. Try saying something like, "That's an interesting point, but we were talking about insert original topic here." This helps in maintaining focus. Can we please stay focused? A gentle reminder can go a long way. Step 3. Refuse to engage in false equivalencies. This is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the discussion. Just because someone tries to draw a parallel between two things doesn't mean you have to accept it. Be discerning. If the comparison is irrelevant or misleading, point that out. Clarity is key. You can say, "I don't think those two situations are comparable. Here's why," and then lay out your reasoning. This helps in clarifying your stance. And then lay out your reasoning. Providing context and details strengthens your argument. Remember, you're not obligated to debate on someone else's rigged terms. Stand your ground. Step 4. Know when to walk away. Sometimes it's the best option. Sometimes you're dealing with someone who's so deeply invested in their whataboutism that they're beyond reason. Recognize this early. In these cases, the best course of action is to simply disengage. Save your energy. You can say something like, "I don't think this conversation is productive." Be firm but polite. "I'm happy to discuss this further," when you're willing to engage in good faith. This leaves the door open for future, more productive discussions. And then, walk away. preferably while whistling and pretending you haven't just aged a year from the sheer frustration of it all. Sometimes a little humor helps. Tired of pointless arguments where nothing gets resolved? Let's expose whataboutism for what it really is. A cheap tactic designed to derail, deflect, and keep us arguing about the wrong things. It's time to reclaim our conversations, our sanity, and our ability to actually address the issues that matter. Remember, a world free of whataboutism is a world where we can finally focus on having productive, nuanced discussions about the things that truly matter. It's a world where logic prevails, accountability thrives, and no one can get away with simply pointing a finger at someone else instead of answering a difficult question. So, go forth, armed with the knowledge and the righteous fury of 1,000 philosophers who have been subjected to one too many whataboutisms. Call it out, shut it down, and let's make the world a little less frustrating, one conversation at a time.